Yeah, so my name is Anders Carlsson. I'm the CSO of Bionamic. We're a software company located in Lund in Sweden. And we're devoted to creating software to alleviate very real and common pains and problems in antibody and other biologics discovery and development work. So we call our product or the scientific data backbone in your antibody R&D. And looking a little bit at the discovery and development process of biopharmaceuticals, or antibodies in particular, going from target validation through some kind of binder generation process, be it immunizations or various display technologies, through screening, sequencing, cloning, up to starting doing production and purification batches, and then optimization work. What you do during this process is, of course, generating large amounts of very different types of data. And these data typically goes into your ELNs or your LIMS systems. You may put them on shared file servers. And the idea with Bionamic then is to be this layer on top of everything where you can actually put anything related into the various steps in your specific process into this very well-structured data model. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here today to talk about why we and our customers think this is a good idea and what you can do with it. So first of all, when we say scientific data backbone, so what does that really mean, and what's the difference between that and your ELN or LIMS system? So at the very core, our system is a software that represents all the scientifically relevant pieces and all their relations. So every sequence, library, your animals, different molecules, clones, plates, assays, all that stuff, you can register it into our platform. And we then keep track of exactly how everything is connected to each other in ways that make sense from a scientific point of view. So it's the same way that we talk and actually work with these things in the lab. We try to really map that to our data structure. So that's our kind of flexible data. And on top of that, of course, we have multiple little tools and to help with how to register this and to do different types of analysis, aligning things, and also support your cloning work. And when you do purification batches and all that, track this in a pretty nice way. So a couple of examples of then the problems or pains that this system is addressed to actually help with them. So about 20% of researchers' times are spent on documenting your work or looking through the documentation, trying to find what other people have done and so on. So that's one thing we want to take a significant chunk out of. There's also the challenge with, particularly in discovery and development work, to actually organizing your data in a nice way that's reproducible, since things change so much during these phases. And we have the pain of this very error-prone and inefficient process of moving data back and forth between different pieces of software, Excel to your cloning software and into analytics tools and so on. Where every time you move it, you of course kind of break the connections to wherever it came from. And then on the more scientific side, there's a lot of kind of what I kind of think of as hidden relevant aspects of your molecule. So, for example, if you think about an antibody heavy chain sequence, so where did this different parts, where did the VH came from, or what's the original clone for that VH? What variants do we have of the heavy chain on the protein and the DNA level, and so on. So that's really the type of things we want to address. And lastly, a very practical thing, just labeling stuff. So how do you actually, I'm sure a lot of people here are sat in meeting rooms and develop these very brilliant naming rules, only to then discover that no one will actually follow them out in the lab. So we've built a system where it's actually easier to use those rules than not to. Okay, so then what kind of questions can you ask and have answered in Bionamic? So here are a couple of examples. So starting very simply, so let's say you register a new sequence. You want to know, is this a new sequence? So that might be simple enough, right? But then, okay, then you want to align it to the 10 most similar ones that you have seen before. And for those 10 sequences, find all the different variants that they've been used in. So different antibody isotypes, mutated versions, and so on. And for those antibodies, bring in all the different purification batches that's ever been made of either of those antibodies. And get all the assay data that was generated for any of those purifications, together with other information like what concentrations were there, what were their biophysical properties and liabilities, and assemble all that into one single data set. And then you want to analyze that data set, and maybe, as in this example here, select the top 3 candidates from that list. And you want to get those those VHVLs and put them into a new antibody isotype. And register those labels, those protein and DNA sequences, and so on.